Boom.
We're live.
We are live.
Good man. Thank you. And good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to another Sunday night charge up. The theme for tonight, and I like these secrets that we're talking about. The theme we have for tonight is the 3 secrets to a peaceful life. And I guess one of the secrets that I've left out is that there's probably a few more than 3. I'll discuss what they are as we go through tonight. So when I say there are more than 3, the 3 secrets of a peaceful life are, of course, being present. Eckhart Tolle, the creator of the writer of The Power of Now and Stillness Speaks, believes that stress is determined by people's inability to actually be present. That's one of the first ones. We'll talk about that. Second, of course, is the Trinity of Equanimity. So there'll be another 3 in there. And then within the idea of being attentive, there are another 3 things that I want to talk to you about there as well. So I'll jump back into it, straight into it rather. For those of you who don't know me, David Lee is my name. I'm the founder and chief coach of Leeway Mind and Body Mastery. They say you need a healthy body to have a healthy mind, but you need to have a healthy mind in order to make the decision consistently to have a healthy body. So we're going to talk through some of those things tonight. I specialize essentially in work-life balance. It was a good field for me to choose to get into, considering that I never liked the idea of the work hard, play hard of the 80s or the late 80s when I joined the workforce. And I much preferred the work smart, play smart. And I believe you can outsmart the Grim Reaper by practicing some daily habits and routines. I'll talk to you about some of those tonight as well. And I've also, of course, I've written a book around that, which you guys have been very, very supportive of and gotten behind. I gave you guys a pre-order link, and both Zach and Ben put that up. And I'm very, very grateful, of course, for the support to date. Doing really, really well on that. I'll give a launch date as soon as I know from the States. But also within that, I've created a program called Finding Your Phenomenal, which some of you fellows have been doing, which is brilliant. The idea of that is, until you know what your life's task is, or what I've called your life's purpose, you can never really, well, you can, but you'll find a little bit lost as far as getting out of your own way or closing that gap between great and phenomenal. And within realizing your life's purpose, you need to set dream goals around your 8 masts of mastery. So the number one thing, and in any time, and I would have spoken to you guys about this, but in any time where you're looking to get presence, they say we can go 3 minutes we can go 3 weeks without food. We can go 3 days without water, 3 minutes without oxygen. Now, I think you might be able to go 3 weeks without food, but after that, the body starts breaking down its own organs for survival. You might be able to go more than 3 days without water. And again, the body starts breaking down its own organs for survival. 3 minutes without oxygen, and the first organ that gets broken down is the brain, then the heart, and then good luck from there. But the now is measured as 3 seconds. Now, my question that I continue to ask is our inability, agreeing with Eckhart Tolle, to be present creates stress, but how much of that inability to even be present for 3 seconds breaks down the organs of our mentality and our physicality and all those other areas within which we just aren't present? I think it's something that as we get older, we should have a lot more better handle on than the younger generation. My daughter and her boyfriend came over for lunch yesterday, and all afternoon, at first I said, hey, I thought you guys were here till the footy. They go, oh yeah. And I said, you just seem to be looking at your phones, your watches. And what it was is they've got the iPhones on, they've got the smart watches, as they're now called, and they had Messenger, Instagram, TikTok, all of these things, plus their friends. And that's how my question to them was, well, hang on, I only have text. I get one notification and it's from text. While I'm here with you guys right now, Everyone else that I love knows I'm here with my daughter and her partner. I haven't caught up for a while, so I'm actually going to be present. And so I've only got the phone here because playing music into the speakers. But if it's really, really serious, text message will come up. They have friends who some communicate through Messenger, some through Snapchat, some through all these other areas. And so they're always on alerts. Now, Dr. Zeus says you never know the meaning of a moment until it becomes a memory. I say that life's about meaning and memories, and you create the meaning through the memories and the memories through the meaning. But in order to have a memory, you actually need to be even creating the memories. And that requires you to be present. And I find no more presence-based experience for a presence-based reset than breathing. And of course, every meditation practice has you focus on your breath. The physiological sigh that's been around since the 1930s just requires you to go. So you breathe in and you fill those lungs as far as they will fill. And then that last little breath, last little inhale ensures you have opened up all the alveoli or the air sacs, which close down over the course of 5 minutes. We do this inadvertently and automatically every 5 minutes or so. You might work with the odd person, you hear them go, oh. And there are people who do that all day long, and they're doing it because they're in a state of anxiety. What this breathing technique does, it immediately takes you from a fight and flight responsibility, which is an adrenaline-driven and presentless state of mind, into a rest and relax, presence-based state of mind. So try that one on. When, as I say, whenever I talk to people about journaling, they do say that they're doing the breathing technique, but they're not doing the journaling, and the cumulative benefits of journaling won't be noticed for quite some time, as much as they won't in the gym until you've done a bit of work there. So from the Trinity of equanimity, there are 3 aspects to equanimity. Of course, I'll read the definition out. I'm not going to be reading each slide as it goes, but for the purposes of defining equanimity, for those of you who may or may not be aware of it, I was originally going to call my book The 8 E's of Equanimity. Equilibrium seemed to just sound a bit better, but equanimity is the mental or emotional stability or composure, especially under tension or strain, which gives you a calmness and an equilibrium. An equilibrium, of course, is balance. There's a Rudyard Kipling poem, if you can keep your head whilst all around are losing theirs, then you'll be a man, my son, I think he says. Now, the Greeks referred to it as the rider and the horse. That's Marcus Aurelius astride his trusty steed there. And the idea of your emotions are the horse and you are the rider, your ability to control those emotions. Now, people say, oh, you know, I've got all these million thoughts racing through my head every day. And we all do. We have around 7,000, as it turns out. And most of them about ourselves, not about others. Most people think everyone's thinking about them, but again, you're thinking about yourself and your own worries and all those sort of things that you have or haven't done. The idea of saying, okay, the presence-based me says this is the decisions that I'm going to make. And there is only one. There are 12 bodily systems that we have, the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, all these sort of things. But the respiratory system is the only one of your systems that you have control over. I can hold my breath. I can slow my heart down, but I can't stop my heart. I can't control my heart other than slow it down somewhat. And I can only do that through controlling my breathing. And if your thoughts are running away from you and you're finding they're racing a lot, do that breathing exercise and it'll calm you down. 5 minutes of that have been proven clinically to be more beneficial than 15 minutes of meditation. Again, meditation is focusing on the breath. The physiological sigh repeatedly for 5 minutes will put you into a very, very peaceful and stressless state. So I'm going to talk about stewardship as the first. Stewardship is pretty much your roles and goals. Who are you to other people? Now, I say to people, well, it's the hat you wear. When I talk about the roles and responsibilities and the 8 masks of mastery, which I've spoken about before, but within those masks, what hats do you wear? Some of us are sons, some of us are brothers, some of us are fathers, some of us are partners, some of us are bosses, some of us are colleagues, some of us are employees, the different hats you wear. If you find you're walking into the workplace or even home, having to put the hard hat on more than you would like, that's when you need to actually address the hats you are wearing and how well they fit, and whether or not that's even a responsibility or a hat that you want to be wearing. So from a who you are to others, it's the role modeling that you have. We talk about, I spoke today around a child said, what are you guys talking about monkeys? And we were saying monkey see, monkey do. And monkey see, monkey do, there are 3 stages of learning in a child. The first is echolalia, where they will say back what you have said. And so, most mothers get upset that the first word that their children use is dada. It's an easy thing for the children to say, but the father's always there going dada, dada, or daddy, and the baby repeats that. That's called echolalia. The next is echophenomena, which is where we start to model the behavioral traits. In later in life, they call it mirror neurons. I was talking to somebody recently, and we were getting on really, really well. And as I was talking to this fellow, my back was hurting a bit, and I just started to lean off, and I didn't recognize I was doing it till he started to lean with me as he was looking at as we were talking. I thought, oh wow, we're getting on so much that the mirror neurons they talk about when you're sitting in a bar or whatever, we were mirroring each other's behavior to that degree. But that's known as echopraxia, whereby we see what people do and we go, that's a role model. I want to do that. Now, the last is echophenomena, which is the actual habits and traits that you form through repetition of those behaviors. And there was an experiment done by an Austrian psychiatrist at the time in Canada, and it was called the Bobo doll experiment. And it was a clown that, didn't look like the clown from Stephen King's It. It was a clown that children were sitting behind a glass room and they watched adults come in. And the children who saw the adults hitting the clown, when they were left unsupervised to play with the clown, they hit the clown. The children who were witnessing the clown, and as I say, it was a happy looking clown, a dopey looking clown, big smile on its face. The adults who then showed love and affection to the child, the children who were witnessing that and having not seen the other had actually repeated those behavioral traits. So they were hugging as well. So quite often the monkey see, monkey do, whilst it should be from a very, very early age, the roles and responsibility you have to your children is that you role model behaviors that you want them to do. It's every generation's responsibility to send the next one off better than us. My children asked me and the boyfriend, and they said, who are you going to be, what are you voting, yes or no? And I said, what are you guys voting? And they told me, and I said, well, that's where my vote will come from, because really any vote I have in a referendum now, I do want to live to 100, but it's not necessarily going to change the way I live my life, I don't believe, to any great how I live my life these days and what my plans are for the future. But it very much affects the children, and they are the custodians of our land as far as the land that we leave behind. When I talk in my Finding Your Phenomenal program, it starts with your purpose. It starts with then identifying your dream goals. The 8 E's of equilibrium and how you handle your work-life balance is the 3rd module. And the 4th module is your destiny. And what you do today is who you will be tomorrow. Your legacy is what you leave behind, generally associated with finance, but you can live your legacy through actually seeing your children be. I'm obviously very proud of my children, but I sit there and I'm stoked at the woman that my 24-year-old daughter has become. She's just got it all worked out. She's very wise, but she's a very kind-hearted person as well, and laughs a lot. So I had a good lot of fun, which I wouldn't, Anyway, the idea that she's my why. And when I ask people why they want to do things, what their goals are, and I suggest this in any endeavor you put yourself through or you embark upon, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Nietzsche said, with a big enough why, one can endure almost any how. And I think once you know what your why is, then everything, the hows just take care of themselves. And so for me, given my children are my why, everything I did, why I did what I did, was for their benefit and how I wanted them to see me as a man. And I never wanted, and what I think is phenomenal is seeing the men that my daughters, the boys that my daughters have coupled with, are my kind of blokes. They're very nice fellows. They train. They can look after themselves, and I know they can look after my daughter. And they told a few stories of they just came back from overseas, some of the stuff that they went through in Croatia, and some of the trouble they befell. And Anton, the big bloke, the boy, he was able to get rid of these blokes, and that was for me, I loved that. I thought that's good. He's doing the job. And my daughters, they say daughters will marry their fathers and fathers will marry their mothers, rightly or wrongly, because your wife or your partner doesn't necessarily know that that's what you're subconsciously doing. So again, it's a life partner you got to choose, and don't put the labels on them that you're putting on them because of what your views of the world are. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The next part of the trilogy, I guess, is agency. Who are you to yourself? I like to say this to people every now and again, just as a bit of a test for my own awareness and how well I'm thinking. I say, as far as identity beliefs are concerned, I am not who you think I am. I'm not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am. And when I talk about those 7,000 thoughts we have bouncing around our heads every day, many of those are worrying what people are thinking about us. But the reality of it is you're not actually thinking about other people. You might spare a thought for them, or you might consider them from time to time. But the reality of it is you're not dwelling on anybody for longer than, however long. I remember saying to a client of mine once who had lost sleep, and he was very upset. And on the Friday night, he caught up with his family, and his parents had said this and his brother had said that. And it had cost him 72 hours. This had been bugging him. And I just said to him, how long do you think they were thinking about this problem? He said, I don't know. I said, think about it. It's probably not long. And when we look at things like that, I say you either deal with things or you dwell on them. And if you're going to dwell on something and you're not going to deal with it, then what's the point? So deal with it. And whether that is a matter of, I had a thought that came to me the other day that it was upsetting me about somebody I knew, and it was bugging me, probably for about 5 minutes. And I picked up the phone. I said, hey, can we have a quick chat? And he's gone, oh, am I in trouble? And I said, no, listen, something has happened and I've been made aware of it, but I want you to know that I'm aware of what it is that has happened. And I want you to know I'm not happy with it. And I want you to explain yourself. And can we have this conversation? Well, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, cool. I said, all I wanted you to know is that I'm aware of it, though. What you do from here is your decision. But I'm aware of what's going on. What you choose to do from here on in is what you choose to do from here on in. And that'll affect our relationship moving forward based upon how you choose to respond or what choices you make from here on in. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. Called me later on, had sorted everything out. Now, that was great. Now, the biggest favor I did him a favor, but I did it to myself. I did myself a favor. And so that was taking initiative. That was making a decision. The word decision comes from the Greek word incision, which means to cut. Now, that to me was cutting out stinking thinking. I was annoyed, I was surprised, but I hit it head on. That to me meant I didn't have to worry anymore. That is peace of mind. And the idea that I've said this to you guys before, if it is to be, it is up to me. Those 10 two-letter words, I'm not a big fan of the word if. And so in my daily mantra, it is as it is to be. It is up to me. Because I already know what as is. As in, as I see the world through my journaling, through my daily letter to myself, as it is to be, it is up to me. Now I have to identify what the it is. Now, if you think about it, the word identity has an it in it, and you have an identity belief around yourself. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how much of your identity is wrapped up into that belief. Now, I talk about the 8 masts of mastery: mental, physical, spiritual, social, financial, family, business, and romance. Within each of those masts, you need to have an identity. And the reason for that is, if, for example, the identity I have within mental is that I like to learn. Now, God forbid, if my ability to learn was compromised, then I have lost my identity. If I was entirely a polymath, if you like, or wanting to know everything about everything, if my ability suffered there, then I would be in a crisis of faith, and that crisis of faith being faith in myself, because that identity is gone. If I'm a businessman and I wrap up my entire identity around my company and my company fails, I now have no identity there. So the idea of having an identity in each of those masters of mastery, knowing what your it is, that it is your identity. And the point being, if you've got 8 plates and you're spinning them and one breaks, boom, boom, they'll smash. That's your identity if it's all wrapped up in the one. Whereas if you have 8 facets to yourself and 8 components to your identity, then if one starts to fail, as again, like romance, could your romantic identity may be suffering somewhat. So you stoke the fire of romance, buy the flowers, have the date night, have the conversation, have the hard conversations, have the conversations that you're not having, that you couldn't either be bothered to have. Because here's the thing, I say to people, hey, how's your diet going? Oh, my diet's pretty good. What did you eat in the last 24 hours? Oh, well, in the last 24 hours. And I said, well, that's all that matters. I speak of the recency theory. And really, the recency theory is, what did you do in each of your masters of mastery within the last 24 hours? What you ate in the last 24 hours is who you are today. What you read in the last 24 hours, or what you learned in the last 24 hours, is what you know today, more than you did yesterday. How you moved yesterday is how you'll be today. How you slept last night is how you woke up this morning. The relationship, if you had a good night with your partner last night, then you're waking up with a smile on your face this morning. If you didn't, you're woken up this morning. It's the 24 hours. Now, curiously, there are raging fights. I often say, when you make your mind up, consider the mind with which you made your mind up, the mindset that you were in, the frame of mind you were in when you made your mind up. So you've had a fight with your wife or your partner or your child, and that's it. All terrible words you use. Now, there becomes a little bit more understanding. You might have invested more into the conversation, and now you understand a little bit more about it, and you have forgiven or you've moved on. And there you are, flagrante delicto. You're back in the throes of it all, and yet 48 hours ago, you hated that person in your mind's eye, the mind that you were in. And so I often talk about the Alcoholics Anonymous HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, consider those sort of things. But then I ask, within the last 24 hours, did you do, now hungry's, get a snack, drink a glass of water. I say the H, and obviously the Alcoholics Anonymous people don't use, would be hungover. And the idea that you're hungover, are you fighting because you're hungover? Are you distant because you're hungover? I hear of men stonewalling their partners. Well, it's pretty easy to stonewall your partner when you had a fight over alcohol, and now you're not talking to her because you can't talk to her because you're so wrecked from the hangover that you have from putting yourself through last night's conversation, argument, etc. So thinking within those masters of mastery, am I hungover? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Or am I tired? Now, did you sleep well? Did I engage with somebody? That's loneliness. Encouraging somebody, that's loneliness. When you're not being the best version of yourself, loneliness is not being alone. Loneliness is where you have a disconnection from yourself, and that's agency. And when you have agency over yourself, the rider and the horse, and you know that if it's to be, it's up to you, you will do those things and gain more agency. And here's the thing, how well you slept. If you slept well, you go, wow, I'm so glad I went to bed early last night. Tick. Self-encouragement is the highest form of encouragement, self-acknowledgement rather, the highest form of encouragement for yourself. And so you go, wow, and I went to the gym. Tick, great. moving on. Gratitude. The idea that, you know, and it was lovely yesterday. Again, the recency theory serves everyone pretty well. A lot of conversations around, did you watch the footy? Do you want? I haven't watched any footy, so I don't know any scores. But the idea that when people say, funny thing happened to me on the way here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I will often say, just yesterday, I had my daughter and her partner over. Now, before she'd even gotten home, I'd had a really lovely message of gratitude from her. And we pray for a lot, or we hope for a lot, or we wish for a lot, or we dream for a lot. And if you get what you get, I like to say to young kids, you get what you get and you don't get upset. But the idea of if you actually get what you wanted in life and you put it out there and you got it, then you should really be grateful. An attitude of gratitude is what I would, my father used to call it, but an attitude of gratitude, the idea that you're grateful for what you have. Now, I like to say, if you invited somebody over and they said, my goodness, David, this salsa verde dressing, it's phenomenal. What's in it? And I give them the recipe and they, oh, it's just beautiful. This is the nicest. I love coming to your place. No one cooks steak as well. Oh, thank you very much. That's great. The next day they ring me up or they send me a text or I get a little, whatever it is. That's great. There's every likelihood I'm going to invite them back. If they said, oh, man, I don't like coriander. There's no coriander in my salsa verde sauce. But whatever, oh, you know, and they turn up with a 6-pack or whatever it is, and there's not the graciousness about them, then, or the next day they don't come back and say thank you and you don't hear from them, it's very likely that you won't invite them back again unless they're family, of course, and you have to. But what I say about that is an attitude of gratitude, depending on what you believe in, the God you believe in, whether it's universe, source, karma, whatever it is, actually having a gratitude. Now, you know, you could start a gratitude journal, but as a part of your evening journaling routine or ritual, if you like, when you think of what you did throughout the course of the day, what you didn't do is silly, is actually evaporates. And I don't think you appreciate what a great day or a wonderful day you really have had until you write that down. Now, it makes my morning journaling a little different because, you know, I used to sit there and go, oh, well, it's whatever time it is, and this is this, and yesterday I did that, and whatever. But of an evening now, when I put my finishing touches, Seneca says, the man who puts the finishing touches on each day is never short of time. And by that, I mean, you know, I've set my alarm to go to bed and I've got everything sorted and it's all ready to go. Then I'm not running late tomorrow because I've already preempted premeditatio malorum, the premeditations of evils, or thinking, what is the worst thing that could possibly go wrong, and doing every single thing in my power to make sure that it doesn't. Now, gratitude, that is in my power to be grateful. And the more and more I am grateful and the more I appreciate what I have, you know, I went and saw my mother a couple of days ago because I hadn't seen her for a while. And I went and saw her, and as luck would have it, she's got a sore back. And I said, can I try and crack your back, Mum? My mother's 86. And I gave her a hug, and she was in too much pain. And so while I was there, I was just hugging her. And I thought to myself, you know, my father passed away a couple of years ago. I don't know that my mother has been hugged for as long as I hugged her, for 2 years at least. And it was a very reciprocity, specificity, which I'll talk about in the next slide, I think. But the idea of that hug for me was, I had such gratitude, and that went in my gratitude journal. I got to hug my mother for a minute, you know, lucky me. And as I say, if your parents are still alive, take every advantage to do that. I often say to some people as well, if you see your mother or father and they're still around, or even friends and children for that matter, you spend most of the time you're ever going to spend with your children before the age of 12. And then things happen, and as far as they go off and do things, and the opportunity to see them as often as you would like changes. But again, if I see my mother, let's just say I see my mother once a month, then, and she lives for another 10 years, it's only 120 more times I'll see my mother. That's being very, very optimistic. But think about that, the times that you have with your parents and with your loved ones, be very, very grateful for them. And going back to the idea of creating memories, the more emotion you put into a behavior, the more that is likely to become a memory. Emotion, it is said, is energy in motion. When I sit there with my mother and I play her old songs and she's telling her old stories, there's a lot of emotion involved, and they're great memories that I will have. I always remember as soon as I see my mother, she goes, oh, and she gets upset that I bought her flowers because she thinks flowers are a waste of money, is what she says, because she knows they're not cheap. But every single one of my siblings will say, yeah, mum tells me you bought these flowers. And so she does appreciate them, and that's gratitude. Now, of course, the third part of the trilogy of equanimity is being attentive. This year's Are You Okay Day theme was I'm here to hear. Here being present, and here being the ability to listen. Now, there are two big secrets to life that I obviously didn't put into the other. And I believe the world works on reciprocity and specificity. Now, reciprocity is you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Specificity is that's where I want you to scratch. So often we go, but I did this. And it's like, no, I didn't want you to do that. You thought you were doing what I wanted to do. I ask men what their partner's love languages are. And they go, oh, I go, what's yours? And they know straight away what theirs is. And quite often we assume that our love language is our partner's love language. That's not reciprocity. That's you doing what you want to do because you like doing it. I remember my children saying once, Dad, why are you so romantic when mum's not romantic? And I said, well, I love romance. I like being romantic. And if somebody doesn't like it or doesn't, then that doesn't mean I should stop being who I am. I was told a story once of a man whose wife had Alzheimer's, and his mates said, you should put her in a home. She's not the woman that you married. And he said, but I'm still the man that she married. And I think that's a really important part when we talk about identities, to remember who we are. And to behavioral flexibility means that we move with the times, and we might harden the, I'm going to be the Viking. I say Vikanda, be the Viking and the panda, and that's behavioral flexibility. But as far as the idea of listening and reciprocity and specificity is when you listen to your partner, your ability and the clues that she's giving you to specifically what she wants in life, that is reciprocity. So I'll quickly run through this. You guys know this one, or should by now. When you're talking to your partner, 65% of communication is nonverbal. So you want to look them in the eyes. The eye is asking imaginative and intuitive questions, not just closed questions. So how did you go? Where are we going? Why did we do that? Can you tell me how I can make life easier for you? Seeking first to understand, then to be understood. So say, okay, if that's specifically what you wanted me to do, you might say, I took the rubbish out, but I asked you to do it 3 hours ago. And, even if your partner's going, and I see how, dance monkey, I'll see how much I can see what this bloke does. It's a test. It's always a test, but you've got to pass the test. Failing the test, you don't get the degree. You have to decide what that degree is and to what degree you're prepared to work hard to pass the test. And bloke says, oh, I do this, and then she asks this, and then she moves the goalposts. Well, if you want to keep playing, keep moving to the goalposts. And again, you do one workout and expect to get muscles and keep those muscles, it doesn't happen. You get one good night's sleep and you think you're going to be refreshed it doesn't happen. You've got to continually doing that, thinking that, well, I did that for her and now she wants something else. Of course she does. It's another day. Your body wants you more nutritious food. It's another day. Your muscles need more movement. It's another day. And so to expect that the status quo is going to stay the same, that you're going to actually keep things as they are. There are women out there, a lot of blokes I know have been in marriages for quite some time. Their wife isn't the woman that they married, and you are not the man who married her at the time. But there was an agreement that you had, and the agreement should be to grow together. And so, the idea of just going, okay, what is it? I'm going to seek first to understand, then to be understood. I can't push this is what I want. Well, okay, but what have you done for me lately? The second is that the next one is to tame your tongue. Whether it's children, whether it's whatever, ask the question. And my daughter is a bit of a chatterbox. And yesterday she had asked me a question and I was answering it. And then she said something, and I said, hang on, I've got a really good story to tell you here, and you're back to your holiday in Croatia. And we all laughed because that's exactly what she had done. But how many of us do that, where we are just waiting for our turn to talk? We're not necessarily listening, and the partners know. And then empathy is that understanding exactly what it is that you can do. It's not sympathy. Once you start feeling sorry for somebody, you change the way you look at things. And then just never saying no or but. The idea that I joke that no is probably something you should be saying to people who are asking you things outside of the circle. There's a book called The Circles by Kerry Armstrong. It's 7 circles. But in that circle of trust in the middle, they're the ones you never say no to or but to. But everybody else outside of that, you say no before you say yes, because then you consult the inner circle and the inner sanctum, and then you say that. Now, I check in with my partner all the time as far as the calendar is concerned. And I will say, you've got to send me a calendar invite. If you want me to pick your kids up, I'll pick them up. But it's got to be in the calendar. It's also got to be, when you say to me, this is what I want, put it in the calendar. I went and saw my partner's parents today. It wasn't in my calendar. She had told me about it, excuse me, but I played big time with my kids yesterday, as far as my daughter and her partner. Had a very late night. I ate far too much. I mean, I had probably a 1.9 kilo steak to myself, had a late night. And if I had known about today, I wouldn't have put the same, I mean, I'm sure I would have had the same fun, but I would have said, can you do it another day? Or it was just to go and visit. Now, I had a really, really long day. It was I had to sit there. And when I talk about mantras, I think of meditation as medication. And I was sitting there at one stage with my finger blocking my ear, because there was 4 kids running around screaming really loud. And it's like indoor voices. Kids got indoor voices and they don't have indoor voices. And they didn't go outdoors, which is probably why they were running around. But the idea of knowing that my inner circle had that on. I mean, I went because it was my partner's parents and she wanted me to spend time with them. And I did. But had she done the right thing by me, which was put that in there, she said, I know that you spend every weekend. You told me about your daughters, but I just thought I owned you on Sundays. And she does. And it was quite kind of funny that she said that. But also, I'm a good kind of party guy, but on the next day, I like to actually do the saunas, relax. And I mean, I did that. I had a sauna and I had a bit of a nap once I'd woken up. So it worked out well. I'm going to talk to you about, when I talk about the 8 masters of mastery, and there's a reason why I talk about this. But I want to ask you guys to give yourselves a score out of 10, where 7 is not an option for your mental, physical, spiritual, social, financial, family, business, and romance in the last 24 hours. Because if you didn't go to the gym yesterday or today, physically, I'm big on 1 rest day a week. And even on the rest day, I'm just walking. So I walk 7 days a week, at least an hour. And I make sure that gets in there. It's not about steps to me. I think the step counters are quite dangerous. When I say beware of the false prophet that is the pedometer, a mate of mine told me he racked up 15,000 steps on his iPhone health app by walking from site to site, sacking people. It was the worst day of his life. But Apple said, well done, good and faithful servant, 15,000 steps as you change lives. But ask yourself, like in the last 24, 48 hours, what spirituality is different from religion? Where did you actually sit somewhere and be present and go, wow, I really, really appreciate this. I loved the sunset. I love the sunrise. So think about that. 7's not an option because everyone says 7. Now, if any of those masts of mastery you scored below 7, that's where you should be stoking that fire before the plates drop. Now, I also talk about dream goal setting. And so, purpose, that's my first goal setting acrostic, and dream is the second. And the reason why I want to bring this up tonight is because it dawned on me again something the other day. And, part of my dream life, obviously desire is the burning desire. absolutely have to have a burning desire. Now, as far as relationships concerned, in order for your wife or partner to be into you, as far as intimacy is concerned, she's got to be desirous of you. There's a big difference between being in the mood and desiring you. And I think for me, I'm always looking every day at what I desire in each of those masts of mastery. Now, given education's big on my list, I have to know and evolve every single day on my way of thinking. And I like reading books that I've read before and looking at them from a different perspective. Now, what I do when I read books, I read it with a highlighter and I highlight the page, and then I highlight the bibliography down the back, or the index. I'm just trying to see if I've got a book handy to demonstrate. However, what it saves me time on is if, just for example, I wanted to talk tonight on gratitude, and I'd pick up some books that I know that I was given a bit of an insight into gratitude from, and I'd flick to the back and it might say quality time. And I'll go, right, quality time 73, and I'll read that again. Now, reading it today, as opposed to when I read it 5 years ago, if that's the last time I picked the book up, my opinion around gratitude and quality time is completely different because I have changed. The world has changed. My partner's changed. Those sort of things and the evolution. And I'm always challenging the way I'm thinking about the product that I offer and the service that I offer so that it is relevant to the people I'm serving and that I continue to love doing what I do. So the point I'm going to make is that when you set your goals in your masts of mastery, ask yourself, what is it that you really desire? And is it realistic? If I say I really love to have won Wimbledon, well, is it realistic? Might have been. When do I want it? When will I do, be, or have this by? Well, that ship has sailed, literally. It was never one of my dreams, by the way. I wanted to play cricket for Australia, and I still do have dreams that I'm raising the bat. But again, that ship has sailed. Now, here's where the clangor comes from, or the epiphany that I had. Within each of these desires and the reality and the end time, excuse me, the A and the M, the action steps and the making of it happen. The A and the M have to happen in the AM or they will not happen. If they're in the PM, there's every likelihood your post-mortem will be, that's where it was. I didn't do it. If I don't train in the morning with all good intention, I may be tired, the gym might, whatever, someone might offer me a drink and one beer and I don't feel like training. So that to me would be, oh, well, that ship has sailed again. So thinking about your action steps with your it in mind. So your it, you have to make it happen in the AM. And if you wait past that, that's why your first hour should be the rudder for your day. I'll quickly jump into the morning routines because, again, I've told you, don't hit snooze. Don't program. When you program your alarm, it doesn't have a snooze option. Sometimes I can bring up old alarms without realizing, and then I'll be in a session with a client or whatever, an alarm goes off and I go, oh, I must have hit the wrong thing there. And so I'll hit the button and then it goes off again because the snooze keeps automatically setting that up again. The major benefit to you not hitting snooze is you don't go back into another sleep cycle. You hit the snooze button. I know clients who, one of my clients sets 5 different alarms. She hits the snooze button 4 times, gets out of bed on the 5th. Her partner hears each of these 5 alarms because he gets up later than her, but that's her morning routine. We've gotten on top of that. The make your bed one just goes without saying, you slept in your bed, make it. Cold shower, again, the cold shower has become my absolute go-to. I literally jumped in the cold shower 5 minutes before jumping on the phone because I'm tired from a big day of play yesterday and I have to get up tomorrow morning at 4:30 rather. So I thought, right, I've got to, again, give it all my best. The hydrating with the lemon salt makes, and the juice of 1 lemon doesn't have to be warm water. People have asked me about that. Cold water is actually going to add thermogenesis because your body has to actually convert that water to 37 degrees. So if you're going to have ice cold water, it's going to take you longer to drink, but you're going to get some free fat burning out of there if fat burning is one of your things. The espresso shot, whether you drink coffee or not, to me, it's just part of my morning routine. I love the taste of coffee. I smell the beans, and that's part of my retronasal olfactory. The smelling is actually linked, the sense of smell is linked to memory retention. And so I smell as many things as I possibly can to remember what they smell. And I say to people, your 88-year-old self, whatever age you are now, if you stop and smell the roses, your 88-year-old self will thank you, who you are right now, for smelling the roses, because your 88-year-old self will remember that you stopped and smelled the roses. So then you read your as if now letter, which is the letter you wrote to yourself that you say it is the whatever date, a year in advance. It'll be when I read out my letter every single morning. It's the 1st of January, 2024. This year was the greatest year of my life. My book got published, blah, 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 blah. And I read this out. And every single thing that I read, I don't just imagine it, I feel it. As I say, I can smell the pages of my book. I can see I can feel the people when that I'm actually helping. I can see the changes. Most of my new clients, when we have our first session together and I start laughing and I say, well, laughter is a shock mechanism of mine. I've laughed in some really situations where I shouldn't have laughed at all because I'm so shocked. But I do laugh because I go, wow, you just told me what your it is. That's it. Now go after it and be relentless at chasing it. And once you know what your it is and your whys are the windows to your goals, your it and your whys, there's the secret. Now I'm laughing because you just told me what it is. Now you know, now we get after it. And all my job is to make sure that you do. They call it the Howarth effect. The reason I can get 24 people yesterday to do burpees for however many minutes is they wouldn't do it themselves. And their job, they're supposed to hate me during the boot camp, but they're supposed to love me afterwards. And the 5-star reviews and love Dave, they don't say that during the class because I'm making them do something that they don't want to do. The difference between successful people, unsuccessful people. Successful people don't want to do it either. They just do it. And that's successful people hire people like me to make sure that they do it. And that's my job. Every time I ask somebody what their homework is, I don't necessarily even have to remember what it is. It's your homework and you need to have done it. But I've got a fair idea and I'll generally send somebody a thing, say, hey, did you do this? Oh, can we postpone? No, we can't postpone the meeting. Do it now. I've had clients do burpees in the middle of sessions. You'll say, oh, listen, I'll wait for you. There you go. Now you're on track. I've got a client who puts himself on a limit of 19 units of alcohol a week. He's very, very kind to himself, very generous, particularly because actually he thinks he's doing better because 4 standard drinks a day times 5 with 2 alcohol-free days is 20. That's how he came up with his 19. He was 1 under par. So he plays his week like he's playing a game of golf. And he's ahead of the game and all that sort of thing. It was his daughter's 21st a couple of weekends ago. So he's above par on that. But when I say you read that as if it's a Pavlov before you journal, it's got to be portable, actionable, visible, learnable. You have to have optimism and it has to be verifiable. Tick, tick, tick. And as you tick off each of your its and your whys, that's life. And you're making the to-do list, which is what do I have to do in the AM to get what I said I would get? Again, that breathing exercise, I was asking someone today and they said, oh yeah, I do it. And I said, no. It's sunscreen for the mind. You don't do it when the stuff hits the fan. You do it so the stuff doesn't hit the fan. And you go, what was that? Oh, it was the stuff that was on the fan. I didn't even realize it was on the fan because I did my prevention rather than my cure. So you're doing your breathing exercises. You're reading, again, read something that's going to make you smarter. Read something that's going to challenge the way you think about things. Read things that are going to challenge the way you view the world. I had a psychologist once say to me, we were talking, and he said to me, there's a belief system that you operate within that is actually working against you. You're actually confined by that. The boundaries, you set boundaries, but that's a barricade because you can't go beyond the boundaries of the rules. And the religions are very rules-based situations. Christ wasn't a Christian, Buddha wasn't a Buddhist, Muhammad wasn't a Muslim. There's 4,200 religions in the world. 1/3 of the world's Muslim, 1/3 of the world's Christian. The other 1/3 are made up of agnostics, atheists, and other belief systems. So it's got quite a few to choose from, but choose something bigger than you to believe in. Now, within that belief system, challenge why you believe, what it is you believe, and be spiritual within that. Don't just be rote prayed, whatever. Have an attitude of gratitude around what it is, the spirituality experience you're having. Bushwalking can be a spiritual experience. The idea of moving, of course, physiology is psychology. You use it or you lose it. Every person I know, when they turn up and they go, oh, I'm not going to. I've got a client who's notoriously late. I love her. She's great. She's notoriously late. She goes, Coach, what we're going to do, because I'll do a PT session with her, and then we'll have breakfast and we'll do her coaching session. She goes, Coach, we'll do about 15 minutes of this, and then we'll go and have the breakfast. I'm a bit hungry, and I go, no worries, all right, we'll do that. And I make sure she does the 45-minute workout. And afterwards, she always says, thank you. I'm so grateful. If I hadn't done that, and I say, I just know I'll get more out of you in your coaching session, more out of you and more for you by the fact you've just moved for 45 minutes. And, I've had clients say to me, oh, you're going to make me run, aren't you? And I say, no, I'm not. I'm going to make you move. I'm going to make you do at least 50 burpees, 50 push-ups, at least 50 air squats. And they go, oh, I can't do that. Well, you've got all day to do them. But if you do them in the AM, then the PM is going to be a lot better. The eating a live frog is just where you do the worst first. What's the worst thing that you're going to come across today? And get it out of the way. The conversation I had to have yesterday morning, I got it out of the way. And I felt so much better for having had that, rather than ruminate, overthink, stinking thinking, etc. Once stinking thinking comes in, change the channel to linking thinking. Linking your thinking to what you really do want, not what you don't want. Now, the hot to cold shower, that is, again, if you're not going to be a cold shower person, then at least try the last 15 seconds, then 30 seconds. Again, if you're not a morning person, you don't go from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You go 6:45. So try that. Now, the thymus thumping is what you would have seen in Wolf of Wall Street. The idea that our thymus at the age of 8 years of age is fully developed. It's the largest it's ever going to be. At the age of 65, it's 3% of the size that it was when you're 8. So it's helping you create and manage your emotions up to the age. Give me the child to the age of 8, Aristotle said, and I'll show you the man. The age of 8, your thymus is fully developed, and it's helping you with homeostasis, or the balancing of your hormones and your glands and all these things that help you control your body. As you get control of your body, as the rider controls the horse, the thymus isn't as necessary. If you're struggling, then that's what that's for. That will actually stimulate the thymus and tell the brain, send the information down. An evening routine, ritual rather, ensures you're anchored in for the night. So if that first hour is a rudder for the day, your evening ritual is going to make sure that you sleep well, wake up in a good place the next day. So you'll do that by eating your dinner at least 2 hours before you go to bed. Go for a walk. As I say, I don't walk for an hour, but I can walk to the corner and I can walk back or do whatever. Generally, I'll walk and I'll get what I might need the next day. An hour before bed, take your magnesium. Magnesium is the nerve mineral. Magnesium is what helps you avoid muscle cramps. You lose a lot of magnesium through training, whether it's walking, being out in the sun, the sweat, but the muscle breakdown actually is where magnesium gets lost. So you just replace it with that. The herbal tea, so again, it's the antitheses of the morning. Dim your lights. Right now, my bedroom has the windows open with the lights out, so nothing comes through, but it's going to be cooler when I get in there. Now, having the hot shower, which I will do before I go to bed tonight, because I do need to get out like a light, but the idea of the hot shower and then going into the cool room, it's when your body temperature drops that you fall asleep. So I'll be sitting there and I'll have my darkened room. I don't need to meditate. I've done this, hopefully a smart enough job for you tonight, and that's my brain. I have read actually earlier on, but that's part of my reading. The meditation for me is pretty much more breathing exercise as far as the 4, 7, 8. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and out for 4. And that to me is helping me slow my mind down. I'm thinking of the things that I'm grateful for, and that's where I'll fall off to sleep. Now, the very last thing I'll leave you with, gentlemen, and this is for those of you who are listening, it's a visual thing. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. There are 12 cranial nerves. The brain tells the body what to do, pretty much through 11 of them. But the cranial nerve, the vagus nerve rather, is the only one where 80% of the communication comes from the gut to the brain. It's the gut-brain axis. It's an afferent nerve, so it takes information from your stomach to your brain. Eat rubbish, you're going to get rubbish thoughts. Serotonin is produced in the gut. The way it gets to your brain is through the vagus nerve. Now, if the vagus nerve is blocked, it's very, very difficult to actually have that. The vagus nerve is not sending the right messages to your brain. What I'm about to show you, if you haven't seen it before, is a vagus nerve reset. So like this fellow has his hands clasped behind his head. And what you're going to do, you're going to breathe into the count of 3. And the good thing about this is going to help me get to sleep as well, but it'll help you guys get to sleep. And now, given that the idea or the theme of this was I'm here to hear at the beginning, here was about the presence-based activity of breathing. And here, as in listening, we went through that as well. But in the vagus nerve reset exercise, what you do, and actually before you do it, turn your heads left and right. There's a bit of stiffness there. The kettlebell swings yesterday, so I can feel it in the traps. But you're going to look at your left ear. Breathe in, breathe out. Keep looking at that left ear. Breathe in, breathe out. Third time, breathe in and breathe out. Now looking at the right ear, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Dropping your arms, a complete flow of my neck muscle, but the vagus nerve, which was blocked through probably sleeping poorly last night, probably what I ate yesterday. I mean, I ate well, I just ate too much of it. And that's now reset my vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the one nerve that is responsible for anxiety and depression. It's wrapped around the heart. It's called the vagus nerve because it wanders through the body like a vagrant, as the original terminology was. But that's pretty much wraps up the show for tonight. I'm bang on time this evening. So, someone is tired. But if any of you want this presentation, just hit me up, david@leeway.com.au, and I'll send you that. Also, feel free to continue supporting me on the book launch. I am very, very, very excited and grateful for that. But again, even if you blokes want to do, my 6-week mastery program, it's 50% off for HPFs because you're already in the game and you're already showing a commitment. But the reality of it is, after only 6 weeks, it's not about fast tracking. There's a movie, Nanny McPhee. She says, when you need me, you won't want me. And when you want me, you won't need me. Now, a lot of my clients, once they've done the 6-week program or 6-session program, you can pretty much nail it in 6 weeks. They don't need me, but they want me. I'm happy to be there. And the longer I work with people, the more and more I enjoy it, and seeing them grow and seeing the wins and some of the things they bring up. I think, wow, you've never mentioned this before. Thank you. There's a lot more trust, even though you've trusted me with a lot. But there's the answer. If you told me that 6 weeks ago, we would have got there a lot earlier. So the first session with me is always very, very much of a deep dive where you tell me all your deepest, darkest secrets, and we will work through that. So anyone who'd like, as I say, the 15-minute session, and quite a lot of you take me up on that, which is brilliant. I've had some really good 15-minute sessions. So whether you want this presentation tonight, david@leeway.com.au. If you want to have a meeting with me, 15 seconds to talk about my coaching program in 6 weeks, it's 50% off for you guys, and the price is on the website if you want to have a look at that anyway. But I'm very, very grateful for you having attended, and hope that you've learned something from tonight, gentlemen. Good evening, be well, and have a wonderful week. Over and out.